Hi, I'm Emily, and this is the M Dash. If you found this while driving, or folding laundry, or staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m., trying to convince your brain to shut up, welcome. You are in the right place. This is a podcast for people who want to think clearly, feel grounded, and trust themselves again without turning everything into a self-improvement project. We'll talk about what helps you settle back into yourself when the world feels loud or rushed or heavier than you expected. And we can also talk about the stuff you Google at midnight and then pretend you didn't. We can also laugh a little or a lot because sometimes that's the most regulating thing there is. So if you're here for clarity, reflection, and real life wisdom, not perfection, I am really glad you're here. A little about me, just so you know who you're listening to. I'm a mom, first and foremost, to an amazing almost 16-year-old girl who thinks I'm quite immature. I like to say it's silliness, but let's be real, I probably am. But I keep her laughing, and I own it. So she can call me that. We accept it. I work a very real corporate job during the day. And I'm very proud to say I'm a published author. I published my first book, When the World Gets Loud, November of 2025. I've mostly processed my life by writing things down and then asking better questions later. I literally process my life in paragraphs. My book is made up of reflections I wrote during seasons when I was learning how to quiet the noise, trust myself, and stop gripping so tightly. And this podcast is just an extension of that. Think of it as a sibling space to the book, a place you can come back to when the world or your own head gets a little loud. And a fun fact, I'm a lover of pina coladas and dancing in the rain. If that made you smile or laugh a little, then you might get me. And I'm very aware that's part of a song. But for me, that describes me because I think those two things are pretty magical, especially together. Now, why is it called the M Dash? I want to tell you why. You know that punctuation mark, that little line, the one that shows up when a sentence isn't ending, but it's not quite ready to become the next thing yet? That's the energy here. The M Dash is that pause, the transition, the in-between. That moment where you realize, I'm not who I used to be, but I'm still becoming. And maybe you're not trying to fix your whole life right now. Maybe you're just trying to hold yourself through it. And that's what this space is for. This isn't going to be perfect, and I'm not trying to sound like a radio host. Some episodes will be short, some will be long, some will be quiet, some will have a little humor. Well, I hope all of them do, actually. Because life is ridiculous and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone. But every episode has one intention, to help you come back to yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes. So let's start here. I'm sure most of you have felt like January is on day 47. Between the weather, the holidays ending, and the New Year pressure. I keep hearing people say, I should have done this. I could have started that. I would have handled that differently. And it's only January. So I knew the very first episode had to start here with shoulda, coulda, woulda. And once I started thinking about this, I realized something important. I don't actually think shoulda, coulda, woulda is about regret. I think it's about the nervous system trying to regain control after the moment's passed. It's the brain saying, if I can understand what went wrong, I can make sure I never feel that way again. And that makes sense. Control feels safer than uncertainty. But here's where it turns on us. Most of the time when we replay something, we're not learning. We're arguing with the version of ourselves who already made the best decision they could. We're judging the past with information we didn't have at the time. What I've noticed in myself and other people is the shoulda, coulda, woulda almost always shows up after your intuition already spoke. Your body knew something. You felt a nudge, you made a call, and then later when certainty didn't immediately arrive, the questioning started. Should I have said more? Should I have waited? Should I have trusted the feeling? That's not reflection. That's doubt trying to wear a logical outfit. And here's the part that really matters. When you fight a decision after the fact, you're usually not fighting the choice. You're fighting with uncertainty. And in doing that, we create more tension than the original decision ever did. You can feel it when it happens. Your jaw tightens, your shoulders creep up, the space between your eyes scrunches without you realizing it. You don't even notice till someone says, hey, soften the space between your eyes. Did you just feel that? And your whole body suddenly exhales. It's not random. That's your nervous system responding to permission. Permission to be. Permission to let go. Here's another layer of shoulda, coulda, woulda that doesn't get talked about enough. A lot of the time, we're not replaying reality. We're replaying a fantasy edit of our lives. We're imagining a version of the moment where we said the perfect thing, we caught the red flag sooner, we trusted ourselves faster, we didn't hesitate, we didn't feel afraid. But that version of us had information we didn't actually have yet. So when we say I should have known, what we're really saying is, I wish I had today's clarity back then. Well, that's not fair to yourself because clarity doesn't arrive all at once. It arrives through living. Something I've noticed, especially in reflective people, is that we're incredibly compassionate towards others, but we're ruthless with ourselves. I can raise my own hand there. We will say, of course they didn't know. They were doing the best they could. They were in a different season. But when it comes to us, we look back and judge ourselves, but we were not fully equipped yet. Like we ignored obvious signs, like we failed some invisible test. But most of the time, the truth is simpler. You weren't ignoring your intuition. You were building the muscle to hear it clearly. And that takes time, takes repetition. It takes a few wrong turns. That's not failure. That's formation. And here's a subtle one. Sometimes shoulda, coulda, woulda shows up because we're still trying to explain ourselves to people who aren't even in the room anymore. Should I repeat that? We're still trying to explain ourselves to people who aren't even in the room anymore. We're rehearsing conversations that already ended. We're defending choices that no longer need defending. We're seeking approval from a version of the world that moved on. And when you notice that happening, it's usually a sign that your energy is stuck behind you. Forward motion asks something different. No explanation, no justification, just honesty. This is where I want to be very clear because I don't love the phrase rewrite your history. We're not erasing anything. We're not pretending things didn't hurt. We're not polishing the past until it shines. What we're doing is this. We're releasing the narration that says the past version of you was wrong. You don't need to rewrite your history. You need to re-understand it with more compassion, with more context, with more grace. That's how healing actually happens. If you're walking or driving or folding laundry right now, this still works. Inhale with me. Close your eyes, please, only if you're in a safe place to do so, not if you're driving. Take a breath. Put your hand over your heart, or don't if it doesn't feel comfortable for you. Now exhale. If you just did that, you just meditated. People overcomplicate what meditation is. It's being present with your own breath. And when you concentrate on that, that's when you're present with the present moment. You're present with yourself. Just notice your jaw. If your teeth are touching, let them separate. Let your shoulders drop a notch. Soften the space between your eyebrows. That's a big one for me. Every time I have to even say it to myself because I find myself doing it. You don't need to do anything special. Just notice what happens when you stop gripping, because that grip, that's where shoulda, coulda, woulda lives. And that's where I'm trying to help you. Not everything that's alive needs to be spoken immediately. Some things ripen, some things get their own container. That applies to conversations, decisions, timing, and feelings. We don't actually need to narrate our lives in real time to prove we're processing. Some clarity comes from silence. Some answers come from letting things unfold without interrogation. This is especially true in seasons like January. January asks us to reflect, not punish, to notice, not rewrite, to take stock without fantasy editing our lives. And yet so many of us start the year by saying, I should have already done more. That voice isn't wisdom. That's impatience. Forward motion rarely looks dramatic. It looks like getting out of bed, drinking water, answering one email, choosing not to replay the same thought again. Small things, but they stack and they move you forward in ways regret never will. So if you're replaying something, a conversation, a choice, a moment you wish you'd handled differently, try a different question. Not what should I have done, but what did I know at the time? And honor that, because you don't owe your past self punishment. You owe yourself context and compassion. January didn't need to be perfect to be meaningful. You don't need to grade yourself on how it went. You don't need to drag its judgment into the next month. Being here was enough. Release the replay, release the grip. Rest in the moment you're actually in. You're not behind, you're not broken. You're in motion. And I say this because we have a couple of days left. And if anything right now, I want you to honor that. Honor. Think to yourself, what is something that went right in January? Or maybe a word that describes your January. Or something you want to start practicing before February hits. You know, so many times we wait for a Monday. We have to put it on the calendar or think, we can't start that until a new week begins. You can actually start something whenever you want to start it. You can start it at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. There are no rules. It's the rules you put on yourself. So allow yourself to bend, right? And move and process in real time, not the past. Before I close, I want to explain one small thing, because you'll hear it again if you keep listening. I write what I call blessings. The more formal word would probably be poems, but I've never thought of them that way. They're just words I write to say to myself out loud, or quietly under my breath, or on days when I need something to bring me back to me. They're not meant to fix anything. They're just meant to be steady. So if you ever pick up my book or keep listening here, you'll hear me refer to them in that way, blessings, because that's what they've been for me. And today I want to leave you with one. I actually want to leave you with one every time. Blessings for the M dash. May you stop arguing with the moment you survived. May you stop trying to rewrite your history, just to prove to you should have known better. You were learning. You were carrying things that you didn't have language for. You were doing what you could with what you had. So today, may you release the coulda. May you release the shoulda. May you release the woulda. And may you keep the lesson and let go of the shame. And if you are in between chapters, may you not rush the ink. May you trust the pause May you trust the process. May you trust you are not behind, you are becoming. May you rest, not in the life you imagine you should have lived, but in the one you're living now. And one more thing. Try saying this with me or quietly to yourself. I release the version of me that did their best. I forgive the version of me that didn't know yet. I choose the version of me that is here now. How good does that feel to say, I choose the version of me now? Yes, please choose you. Thank you so much for being here today. If this landed with you, I hope you come back. This is Emily, and this is the M-, and you are always welcome here.